gosh.
Wow.
Welcome back to Counterculture.
You lose control,
my
Andy, and
gosh.
never get it back.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
You have lost control.
Totally
today.
not. I once had a little control, and now it's gone. You're Pastor Mark, the last time I checked.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm upright and I'm taking nourishment.
Andy, we are going back to Exodus chapter 3. Both of us have gotten so stuck in this that we've actually preached from it the last couple of weeks, man.
Check it out.
It's amazing. So listen, if you want more of this, you need to go check out Pastor Mark's last few sermons.
Or have you been preaching from it too?
Just last week.
Did you start last week?
I started last week because you inspired me.
I just want to be a blessing in whatever small way I can.
You are a blessing.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Who's this?
So we're looking at Exodus. We're looking at chapter 3. Let's start at verse 7. Can you read it for me?
Can I or will I? Ooh. I can. I know how to read. All right. Sure? I know what you mean. All right. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering.
Okay, can you stop right there? I have a practical question for you, a counterculture question. Are you ready? Do you think...
I'm bracing myself, Andy.
Do you think you can get over the fact that I stopped you? No, that's not the question. Are you ready? Do you think that God has seen the suffering and the affliction of his people today? Do you think that he sees our affliction and our sufferings today?
Yes.
Do you think that we are in an Egypt-like moment as people? Meaning God sees our affliction and our suffering, and he's actually going to do something about it.
Yes.
Do explain.
Well, you asked me yes or no questions.
I do. I really wanted to tie a Robbie object lesson into it. So you need to talk before I do that.
Okay. Does he say yes? He saw me coughing and choking on a peanut M&M.
I thought maybe it was.
Yes, I do believe he sees it. When I'm preparing to preach from this next section this week, and it's very interesting to me to think about. Okay, so the Israelites are getting ready to go into 40 years of wandering, but prior to this, there's quite a ways in there, quite a span of time.
Yep.
A couple hundred years, if I'm understanding correctly. So anyway, which is really okay. So just think about America has been a nation for 240 years, something like that. Thereabouts, 225 years, something like that, 230, whatever it is.
I'm going with
gets lost in the rounding.
That's right.
So imagine, what if God says, okay, well, you got 200 more years to go. Mm-hmm. Okay, no, I don't think that's a precedence. Okay, we can say, well, 40 years. 40 years, I'm trying to figure out where 57 years have gone, let alone 40, okay?
You look fantastic.
And many people are like, well, when's God going to do something? And we want him to, in many ways, there's Christians today that are very much like some of the people of Jesus' day. Mm-hmm. They want God to come in and put a certain person or this person in the presidency, and that will save the whole thing. And I don't believe that's how God's going to straighten out this mess. It is a huge, huge mess, and I don't think the government's not the answer. I know it's not the answer.
Wait, so can I stop you right there and ask a question I've never thought of?
But now you did.
I did, because you just said it.
Okay.
Could God have saved his people? Could he have helped his people by sending Moses back to Egypt, but to become Pharaoh?
Oh, could be. Or is God going to bring someone in, a Cyrus, who is not a Jew, I'm going to say / Christian? Could God use a Cyrus? Cyrus was the one who set the Israelites free after the 70 or the second captivity thing. And Cyrus set them free. God used we'll call him a non-believer for lack of a better term. Could God do that again?
Do you think that most people are looking like, so if God had sent Moses back to Egypt and said, hey, I'm going to make Moses Pharaoh over Egypt, right? That would have helped his people out, but would it have solved the problem? Right? But God's intent wasn't to give them a little bit of rest or a break. His intent was to lead them out of captivity.
Yeah.
Do you think that in our culture today, do you think that most people want to be led out of captivity, or they just want a easier, nicer captivity?
Oh, wow. You are a troublemaker. Yes, I think it's more the latter than the former. We want what we want. We want. I think that we're part of the problem in the church today and this is just something I'm saying, is we have people who want enough of Jesus to save them, but they don't want so much of Jesus that it will change them.
So,
that is a good quote.
You should probably be chasing the windish.
Oh my goodness, that is a good quote.
So one of the things that we were talking about yesterday up at Lakeview was this whole idea of, I was asking one of our deacons, I was saying, hey, do you think the people at Lakeview, do you think our people have a relationship with Jesus? And he said, yes. I think that they have a relationship with Jesus. But then I said, do you think our people are living a lifestyle of Jesus? And the answer was no.
Thanks for playing.
Right. No, the answer is no. I think our people talk about Jesus from the standpoint of they would claim him, but they do not live a lifestyle of Jesus. Right?
Having a form of godliness, but denying its power. Not really living in the power of the God. I have just enough Jesus to give me fire insurance for life. This is how we used to talk about it. I have fire insurance, but I don't want to take this Jesus thing too seriously.
So did the Israelites under captivity, did they want the things of God or did they want God?
Yes.
They want
the things of God. Yeah. We just want an easy life. We don't want anything. We want what we want. We got it, which goes back to what we talked about last week. What I preached about last week is we have lost the fear of God.
All right,
the fear of the Lord in Christian circles. We do not. It's like, well, God's just kind of there. We're indifferent toward him most of the time.
All right.
I think
So,
many are.
As we close this out,
Yep.
take a moment and meddle in our listeners' lives a little
Yes.
bit, and challenge them. Tell them, like, how do we change our thinking? How do we go against a culture that wants us to compromise, wants us to just want relief, right, from captivity, not really want to be freed from captivity?
I think we have to return to our first love.
What if it's not our first love?
Well, if we have a relationship with Christ, he is our first love. If we have entered it all, he is our first love. It's a metaphor, obviously.
Nope.
It's interesting to me. I'm drawn to a thing popped up, and I've watched it before. A little short documentary on YouTube about minimalist.
Are you going to make a word up? This is fantastic.
I can never say millennialism. Oh, I just did. Or minimalism. There we go. Minimalism. And after 30 years of marriage and seeing a basement full of stuff that we don't use anymore, it's interesting. Max Lucado wrote a book several years ago called Traveling Light.
Yep.
Now, there's a couple ways you can. Traveling light or traveling light to help you travel, to see where you're going. But then there's also traveling light is lightening the load. And I think too many of us have, one of the things I saw last night, it came across my feed, I didn't watch it, was like a 5-minute thing. One of the rules of minimalism is the things that you think you need, things will not make you happy. Stuff does not make you happy. Matter of fact, it's making me somewhat uncomfortable, bordering on miserable. As I go down there, I'm like, oh my goodness. My wife used to laugh and say when she was driving an hour to work one way, and she told me one time, she said, "Well, I think to myself sometimes if I got into an accident and I died, and Mark's gonna be so mad at me because there's all this stuff in the basement, and she wants to keep it, and I'm like, let's get rid of it, unless it has some meaning to us. And I said, oh, no, don't worry about it, babe. I said, here's what's going to happen. I said, I'm getting a roll-off dumpster in there. I'm getting some people from the church as they start hauling up those steps. It is gone. It is not a problem for me at all. You know, not saying I want my wife to die by any means, but that stuff is not going to be a problem. But I think it is going back to what is the important thing. And I have to do this every now and then. We think about those Ebenezers that were talked about. You know, the old hymn says, "Here I raise my Ebenezer." It's a landmark. To go back and say, wait a minute, what is this? I think I told you this is the first Bible I got when I got saved. I love this Bible, and I'm not bibliolatry there. I like it because I know where everything's at and I can find it easily. And I'm like, oh yeah. And don't be fooled by the highlights of different colors. It's just whatever one was available. I'm not that OCD. But anyway, when I read this, it takes me back to when, they used to call me a Jesus freak. Would they call me that now? Would I be called that now?
There's a chasing the wind.
There's a chasing the wind. And so, producer, write that down, please.
Would they call me a Jesus freak?
Would they call me a Jesus? Oh my goodness, that's a good one. So anyway, I think it's that self-examination, and now, granted, we examine, as I talked about in Chasing Wind earlier this morning, we tend to look at everybody else, we examine everybody else, but we don't examine ourselves. Yeah. And to look at that and say, wait a minute here, am I really following the Lord, or do I want the things of God, or do I want God?
Ooh, fantastic.
Boom!
All right.
Is that what they call a mic drop?
It's a mic drop in our
gray-haired
world.
Our gray-haired world.
Right. It's going to be a new show. Life according
to
Andy.
Gosh.
Our
Wow. All right,
world.
wrap this up. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Push the button, producer. Here we go. We'll see you next time.
Grace and peace.
Counterculture.